Welcome back to the Grounded in Simplicity podcast. This is Bonnie from the Not So Modern Housewife, and I am joined by my friend Danielle from the Rustic Elk. And we are here to help moms find more joy in being less busy.
Today, we are talking about overcoming setbacks. I had posted recently on social media about some of the health issues that I've been going through for the last year. And just in general, I think the last 2 years have been one giant setback for like the entire planet. And I know it's really caused a lot of mental health struggles for everyone. And that's, even if you weren't dealing with any other health issues or financial issues. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how we can all get through all of that. So Danielle, how you doing today?
I'm here. My foot hurts talking about setbacks.
Right. Do you want to talk about your foot?
No. It's painful. It's super painful. Like, it hurts when I'm just sitting here. So.
And it's a bone spur, right? It's not even anything you did to your foot.
Well, no. Apparently I just walked on it, but I have plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis.
Good times.
And I didn't have Achilles tendonitis until she sent me to physical therapy. So.
And now it's overused and it's angry.
Yeah, it's really, really angry. So my physical therapist, I did an evaluation when I was there the other day. I don't even remember what day it is. What day is it? It's Friday.
Today's
That
Friday.
would have been Wednesday. and he apologized multiple times because they're not supposed to make it worse. They're supposed to make it better.
Yeah. Well, and I think the tough thing with the Achilles tendon is that it's always so tight anyway, especially as we get older. And so I don't think it takes a whole lot to set it off.
No, probably not. But I can't even walk without I can't even sit here without being in pain. So
that stinks.
Yeah.
Have you done anything for it? Any anti-inflammatories or anything?
I can take anti-inflammatories, but they don't work.
Oh, well.
It does nothing. Because you don't have very much blood flow down there to the bottom of your foot.
Right.
Because it's so far away. And
yeah,
there's not really a lot of blood flow to it directly anyway. So
yeah, when I had my tendonitis, it was in my hands. So Motrin could at least take the edge off. But I still had to do steroids and I did some cortisone injections. Good times.
I did the cortisone injections.
Yeah.
You can only have 3 a year, by the way. I'm at my limit.
Luckily, I didn't need that many of them, but
yeah. Well, you can have 3 a year in the same spot, I should say. You can't
right.
do it more than 3 times a year in the same area. So, but I did those. The first one was very effective. The second one, not so much. The third one did nothing. So
I've heard that the more often you get it, the less it works. So
yeah.
Well, I hope that's feeling better.
The first one worked for like three weeks. The second one was like a week, and then nothing.
And yet I keep getting notifications on my watch that you're closing your rings every day. So you're not doing a very good job of staying off your feet.
I don't get notified. Well, you probably don't close your rings, but
okay, I don't have my watch on right now. I closed my rings yesterday. I drug Matt to a yoga class.
Oh.
I actually closed my rings before we got to the yoga class. So I went twice around. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. So I think I'm actually going to go to the gym after this and just jump on the treadmill for a bit. It's charging in the car.
Oh, okay.
Because
I've only walked 15 miles this week.
Only.
Well, I average 5.5 to 6 miles a day, so that's low.
When you don't have tendonitis.
Well.
Or even when you do.
I've got stuff I gotta do. I just struggle through the pain.
And right there is where our setback conversation is going to start.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about how to cope. You just deal with it.
Well, okay, yes. So it's really tough when you're a mom anyway, but then also when you're a homesteading mom, because anything that puts us behind then makes us feel even more guilty, because now we feel like we're never going to get caught up. As is evidenced by all of the text messages I get from Danielle every single day. No, I am not. Okay, I am not saying that you try to take on too much, and then when you don't get it all done, then you beat yourself up about it. Don't even tell me you don't do that. Exactly.
I did not take on all these animals, just, you know,
Well,
for the world to know.
okay.
That was not
That's
my
true.
decision.
That's true.
Okay.
So, all right, yes. One thing that we can do is cope. However, if that does so I think if we're talking about the setback itself, there's a lot of times there are things that are outside of our control. Whether it be a health issue or the economy or, a job loss, something like that. And so a lot of times we just have to go, okay, this is my reality right now. This is the circumstance. Now, what do I do about it? Because, kind of wallowing in self-pity isn't going to be productive for anyone. And so, we just have to, it can feel very overwhelming, and some things are a lot easier to cope with than others, but I think maybe acceptance is a better word. Or never, yeah, anyway. All right, so do you have any strategies for how you cope with it when things happen? Other than just muscle through it and
Well, yeah, but we're going to talk about some of them, so.
Well, that's true. We're going to talk about our different methods for coping. And then also, yeah, just kind of how we can reframe or whatever. All right, so let's just get in. Let's keep going. All right, you go.
Okay, so when you have a setback, you can, try to figure out how to reevaluate your priorities so that you're not trying to take on too much like me. But, when your husband brings home
I'm
4
not
goats.
saying you're right. I am absolutely not saying you're the only one who takes on too much. I am the poster child of taking on too much.
I'm not judging.
Anyway, all right, so we reevaluate. One thing I will say that helps me really with the reevaluating piece is putting it down on paper, because a lot of times if it's all in my head, I start spiraling and it feels a lot bigger than it actually is. So if I put it down on paper and get it out of my head and I can actually look at it, it's a lot easier for me to strategize and kind of see exactly what I'm looking at without all of the thinking and the overwhelm and the overthinking that tends to come along with it.
I want to say when you're dealing with especially health setbacks, reevaluation could mean, you're taking some of those things off of your plate, whether you wanted to or not. It can help you when you write it all down and all the things that you would like to do, but then you realize what you're capable of doing. And you can take, say you were going to grow 500 tomatoes. I don't know who would want to grow 500. Maybe Bonnie wants to grow 500 tomatoes.
If I don't sell some of these seedlings, I'm going to be stuck growing 500 tomatoes.
Have I shown you mine?
I don't know if you have. Oh, yeah, because they were growing taller than the shelf that they're on.
Yeah,
Like they're going past the grow light?
I've moved them twice. They're staked up. They're in half-gallon pots of soil.
Are they still inside? Because you have to wait until like middle of the month. Isn't it after Mother's Day before you can plant outside?
Yeah, like the 10th. And so I was going to put them out and start hardening them off, but it's pouring down rain and really windy. And I'm afraid that it's just going to make it. I'm going to have a bunch of broken tomatoes.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but anyway, so if you wanted to grow 500 tomatoes, maybe you cut it back to like 100.
Well, and also like, I know, and this is something I struggle with, believe me, when it comes to the animals. And sometimes when something comes up, either if it's a health issue and you're just not able to like maintain and care for that many animals, or if it's a financial issue, and right now, like, feed prices are going through the roof. We can't find hay prices are going through the roof. So, if taking care of the number of animals that you're taking care of is becoming too much of a burden, then being okay with downsizing one way or another, whether that's sending some to the butcher or selling some, you're going to be much better off like selling them now and then repurchasing new animals down the road when you're in a better place than trying to maintain all of that through a setback.
Right. Are we going on to the next one?
Yeah. So on to venting.
On to venting. This is Danielle's favorite.
That's because Bonnie is so good at internalizing all of her problems. Don't be like Bonnie. Find someone to vent to.
You vent sometimes to me once in a while.
Sometimes. Although I will say, like, something really has to get me riled up for me to start venting, because otherwise stuff will happen and like I don't have the words for it. So therefore I cannot vent because I don't have the words. I can't.
I think I've experienced one venting episode with you, and I don't think that we'll share that.
I was probably mad at my husband, wasn't I?
You were very mad at your husband.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, we're not going to share that one on the air. Anyway. But yeah, have a few people that that you can feel comfortable sharing with that aren't going to judge you for it. I think that's the hardest thing. And I think that's probably why I don't vent and I internalize so much, is because I've been told by so many different people that the way I feel is wrong. And that, I have no right to complain, or look, if it is a concern to you, you have a right to have that concern. Yeah, other people aren't going to think that your problem is as big as their problems, but if it is a big problem to you, then it is a big problem.
Right.
So, yeah, like I said, have some people
I find
you can share that with.
Venting to like people like you, of course, but I also vent to other people, by the way.
You have other people you talk to?
You know what, Bonnie? Yes, I do. Anyway, venting to people that are outside of your local circle can sometimes be helpful, because then you don't have to, how do I say this? I don't have to look at you face to face, except maybe once a week.
Okay, valid point.
No, but you don't have to have that. I don't know. Sometimes it'd be awkward if you vent to somebody that's, that you see on a routine basis, like in real life, versus venting to somebody who is, far detached from your reality.
Right.
I know what I'm trying to say, but
there's always that fear that you're going to share something personal with someone and that it's going to make the relationship awkward because maybe they took it the wrong way, or they you overshared, or I'm really another reason why I tend to internalize things is I have a long history of oversharing. And I actually did that. Like, I had another mom that, now granted, I mean, we weren't super close. We were really only in the same circles because we go to the same church and our kids are roughly the same age. But I was having a really rough time. I needed someone to talk to. And so I vented to her, and like, she's hardly said 2 words to me since. And that has been years ago. So it definitely can happen. But also at the same time, like, it was probably better to like learn that then, and learn that, she really wasn't that good of a friend, and I really couldn't share a lot of intimate details with her. Not that I was getting that intimate, but you know what I mean. And sometimes it is better to let the chaff fall away. Because you have to ask yourself that, like, if that is how they're going to behave, if that's how they're going to treat you, were they really that good of a friend to begin with? Was that really someone that you needed to be spending your time with?
Right. And then let's move on to this one, since Bonnie apparently internalizes everything.
Okay. I have to share, because I'm actually really excited about this one. I have been doing a lot of journaling and meditating and hypnotherapy lately because my brain is broken and I'm trying to fix it. But so I got this book, and for people that are listening to the podcast, it's the ACT Daily Journal, and ACT is Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. Have you heard about this? Let me see if for people watching on YouTube. I really like this. So it really goes in line with what we're talking about. And so it's talking about like your inner critic and the negative self thoughts that you'll, say to yourself, that you internalize. And it's just working through all of it, and it's reframing all those negative thoughts. And so there's a page that you read every day, and then the next day is like asking you questions, or you journal about it. So I like this. I really like this. I'm only 3 days into it. But it has made me feel so much better just in the 3 days. So I'm really, really excited about that one. But you don't necessarily need like a workbook. I mean, you can just have a notebook that you're just writing out all of your thoughts. I like having the workbook because I do better with prompts. Again, because I've internalized stuff for so long that I kind of need something that's going to draw that out of me. But the important thing, I think, is that write out everything you're thinking without any negative judgment towards yourself. No one else is going to read this, and none of your thoughts, all of your thoughts are neutral. All right. So if anger is neutral. If you are angry about something, then really you should ask yourself, like, what is causing that reaction? Is it a thought? Is it a circumstance? And so you just write everything out, and then you go back and you look and you see if there's trends or patterns, or maybe there's some things, some thoughts that are not serving you, that you need to reframe it and think about, a different way to think it. But like I said, the important thing is not to judge any of the thoughts that you are having.
There's another journal, and it has prompts, and I thought that's what it was called, but I just looked it up. It's called Burn After Writing.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
And so it has prompts to help you self-reflect and all of those things, kind of like the journal that you're talking about. But I like the title of it because, like you said, nobody else is going to read it. So Burn After Writing. Yeah. So that's another one that I've heard. I haven't personally used it. I don't use prompts typically, but I've heard that it's like it makes you kind of laugh.
And that makes sense.
Self-reflect. So yeah.
Yeah, I will sit there and like look at a blank page and not know what to write. So having the prompts really helps me.
Yeah, I'm a writer by
Well,
default. So
I'm a writer
well,
too.
no, but I know, but I mean, I'm one of those, like, I used to write poems, and like I've spent my entire life like self-reflecting on paper and then paying
Right.
for it later.
Well, and I did too. And it's funny, in high school I had a notebook that I had all of my poems in. I actually entered some state poem competitions and things like that. And when I lost the notebook, although I suspect that a boyfriend stole it, I couldn't write it. I couldn't write poetry again. I don't know why. It was
Oh,
like all of the inspiration had just gone.
like the notebook was your muse.
It's something, yeah. I don't know. It was strange. And I mean, and granted, like the same boyfriend that I suspect stole it, it was a very manipulative, abusive relationship. And so there was a lot of things I was going through at the time that the notebook went missing. So I mean, sure, that kind of played into it a little bit. But then, yeah, and then I just started writing more stories and things like that. I've still got a story that plays over and over in my head that one of these days I'm going to write. I'm going to actually put into a book, but I don't know. But there's still some times where there's like too many other things going on in my head. And so when I am trying to write about one specific thing, that's the one thing I can't think of.
Right,
Like,
right.
So anyway. All right. Next. This is one of my favorites. Give yourself grace. This is actually, I'm also listening to an audiobook right now that it is called How to Keep House While Drowning. I think that's what it's called. And it's funny because I'm listening to it and I'm like, gosh, this girl sounds familiar. And then I realize I follow her on TikTok. But it's, yeah, How to Keep House While Drowning. Like she talks, a big part of her message is to give yourself grace. And I think it's hard in this day and age because one, we're not extending grace to anybody else either. I mean, we're living in cancel culture where you make one mistake and we are never going to let you live it down. Oh. And so we end up doing that to ourselves too. And one thing that drives me nuts, like I will get very, very angry at someone who expects me to be perfect. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm human. And if you're just standing around waiting for me to make a mistake, I'm going to make a mistake. Like,
all right, just hang on just a second.
yeah, just give me a minute. It's coming, don't worry. And so it's like, yeah, and I mean, that makes me angry because I'm like, I'm not trying to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect, and I don't want anyone to assume that I am perfect.
No one's perfect.
No. But I mean, granted, yes, I am also the first one to criticize myself and beat myself up over stupid stuff. But, you know, a lot of times, like these voices that play in our heads that tell us all of these things that are wrong and negative, it's someone else that has told us this in the past. And so we have to remind ourselves that, like, you are worthy. You're allowed to be human. You're allowed to make mistakes. The fact is, you don't grow if you don't make mistakes.
Right. They're not really mistakes. They're learning experiences.
Exactly. So, you know, and I mean, like we said at the beginning of this, is some setbacks are bigger than others. And there's going to be a lot of times that stuff is going to happen and it doesn't make sense. And you're like, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to be learning from this? And the reality is it sucks because sometimes the lesson isn't even for ourselves. It's for someone else who's watching.
Right.
Or it is to mold us and forge us into who we're supposed to become, which also sucks because it's like, you know what? I was happier back there. Ignorance is bliss. Can I go back to that?
But at the same time, once you get to the other side of it, it's usually, like when you realize why you had to go through whatever transformation it was that you had to go through, like, there was a method to the madness, and usually you wind up, I don't know, I won't want to say better, but at the same time, it's the only word I can think of right now because it's Friday and my brain's not working.
I know. Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that I could go back and look at and say, I wish that had turned out differently. I wish I had done this differently. And yet at the same time, I wouldn't, if any single thing had been different, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Right, exactly.
And I'm thankful for where I am now. So as painful as some of that stuff was, I have to be thankful for those things that happened because it's what brought me to this point.
Right.
And hopefully 40, 50 years from now, I'm saying that about the crap I'm going through now. So, all right, onward. How to overcome. I'm going to let you lead this one because I've been talking entirely too much.
You always talk entirely too much.
I'm trying to be a better person.
Well, you've done like nothing but pick on me, so.
Please pick on me.
I'm not going to pick on you.
This episode was brought to you by Kitchen Botanicals, your sustainable gardening headquarters. Stop by kitchenbotanicals.com and get a look at our 2022 seed varieties, as well as supplies and pest control products to help you with your organic garden. 2022 is a great time to take care of yourself with our Pampered Gardener subscription box. Every month, you'll receive all natural self-care products, untreated heirloom seeds, high-quality garden tools, organic garden amendments, cute and practical supplies, and fun products that we know you'll love. This is your opportunity to take care of yourself in the garden. I started the Pampered Gardener subscription box because I had gone through a time of not taking care of myself and dealing with the stress that it put onto my body. I was ill, I was tapped out, and I felt like I couldn't possibly pour any more out of my empty cup. So I created the Pampered Gardener subscription box for women like me who wanted to get back to what they enjoy, but also wanted to love themselves. So we've put together this collection of gardening and self-care products that are geared towards women who love to garden. You'll get things such as gloves, lotion, bags, hats, sunscreen, mosquito repellent, things that you can actually use, but also things that you'll enjoy. And don't worry, there will still be plenty of gardening tools, seeds. We've created a subscription box like no other, by gardeners for gardeners. Order your own box today.
Okay. How to overcome.
Overcome. Okay. Are we just going to go through the points?
All right. So we're going to talk about how to actually overcome getting past a setback.
Okay. So my favorite one was avoid comparison, which kind of goes back to that whole, give yourself some grace thing, I think, because you were talking about how we tend not to give ourselves or anyone else grace. But I think that we fall into that comparison trap because everybody's online and you look at these, snapshots of people's lives that are just, little itty bitty snapshots, like a moment in time, and their lives look infinitely more perfect than your life does. And so I think that it tends to make us compare. I know that I look at some other people, I'm like, how the heck could they possibly do this, and this, when in reality, they probably don't. It just looks like they do online.
Right. They have more help behind the scenes, or they scrambled around for 2 hours to make everything picture perfect just so they could take that one photo. Yeah.
Right. That's why I don't like those like home decor feeds and like farmhouse kitchen feeds and stuff. I'm like, no.
I mean,
a farmhouse kitchen that has a stock tank with some baby goats in it.
I mean, is it really a farm bathroom if you don't have baby chicks? I mean, really. Yeah, not. I know. And it's and the tough thing is those folks, especially in the homesteading space, who try to be real and try to show the reality of their life, then get slammed because they're lazy or they're abusing their animals or they're, whatever.
Right.
And it's like, okay, look, first of all, you probably haven't actually done the thing yourself if you are so quick to judge what it looks on someone else's Instagram feed.
Right.
But also, like, just don't be that person, because all you're doing is this is probably the same person who is feeling bad about themselves because their life, their home doesn't look as picture perfect as everyone else. But then when they see one person who's showing the reality, then they're going to dog them because it should be living up to the standard of everyone else. Well, do you realize what you're doing to your own mental health when you do that? And like, let's stop setting that bar so high. I mean, I'm not against high standards. I am against impossible standards.
Right. Well, I think, because like I said, we see all these, little itty bitty snapshots of moments in time, and they all look perfect and they're all curated and all of these things. And we compare, our reality to the fictitious reality that we see online of other people's lives. And also that, we've talked about before, society, success is busyness, right? The more busy you are, the more successful you are. So we feel like, if we're not going 100 miles an hour, that, we're not successful, or we didn't do this right, or we're lazy, or whatever it is. And then, we also compare ourselves to that, like somebody else, like, I walked 5 miles yesterday. Well, you didn't walk 5 miles yesterday. That doesn't make one or the other better. And I'm just using that as an example. I didn't walk 5 miles yesterday.
Yeah. Well, and yes, I would love to be able to get all of my steps in and eat healthy and educate my children and get all of my work done and this, and this. But I am ready to tap out at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, it's not even.
It was about 10 today.
Well, right. I mean, it's like, and there are some days where, yes, I check off all the boxes over here. I still have got all these boxes that didn't get checked. But
right.
I have to be okay with that, because as long as I'm checking off the boxes on the things that are a priority to me, that other stuff can wait.
Right.
And I realize people are going to get upset about it, but at the end of the day, I'm the one living my life, and I have to make sure that my life is taken care of first.
Right. Well, and the whole saying of don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 12, because, like, especially when you're talking about people in the online space, they may have been doing this a lot longer than you. They may have had experience, and been brought up in the homesteading lifestyle or whatever. And so, or they might have a degree in horticulture, who knows? But it doesn't mean that, just because your garden's full of weeds and food, that it's any worse off than their garden.
Right. Yeah, it's,
or whatever it may be.
And there's always going to be something that someone else is better at than you. But that also means that there's going to be something that you're better at than other people.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not to say that we can't improve ourselves and we can't learn to do things better. But again, it comes back to, that person is good at that because they made that a priority for them to learn, and they've been practicing it for a long time.
I think that's why I think community is so important, and learning, finding your community and finding people that can help you with things that you're not capable of doing or don't want to do or don't know how to do or any of those things. And it also falls back to setbacks. When you have a setback, if you have that community with you, then you can, you can kind of lean on them.
You can have someone else to kind of pick up the load a little bit for you.
Right. So you can, pick up the slack and not have to, solely try to rely on yourself. Just like my foot, I have to figure out how to force my kids to help me because I can't walk.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I really went through the same thing with my eye last year. I literally spent a month in bed. Like light was too painful. I had to have my blackout curtains drawn, all the lights off, bedroom door closed. I couldn't look at a screen because screens were too bright. So I literally just laid there and listened to podcasts and audiobooks.
Right.
For a month. And so my kids had to step up. My husband had to step up. And whatever else, but they still had their own stuff they had to do too. So everything else had to fall by the wayside. Right. Stuff couldn't get done as quickly as I wanted to get it done, or stuff, not on the frequency that I wanted it to get done. But that was just a season, and even after that, I mean, it took months to get used to light again and be able to drive again. And plus there was all of the doctor's appointments and having to travel to those. And so I can look and see at all of the other progress that other people have made throughout the last year, but I have to remind myself all of the stuff that I had to deal with that prevented me from making that same progress.
Right.
But I've got this year,
Which leads us into this one.
Be positive. I have a love-hate relationship with this. Because
how can you have a love-hate relationship with positivity?
Let's think about who you're talking to for a minute. No, because you've got a lot of people that are like, oh, well, all you have to do is just wake up and think happy thoughts.
Well, yeah. Well, that's not really what I meant by being positive.
Because look, sometimes you need extra help. Especially if you've had a setback that's really put you behind, and the idea of trying to catch up. And honestly, do we have a thing for talking about catching up? Don't worry about getting caught up, but in case we don't get to that,
there's no such thing as behind. How about that?
There we go. Exactly. You start where you are and you go from there,
right.
And every little bit helps, but sometimes even getting started feels completely overwhelming because you look at it all and you just don't know where to start.
Right.
And so, it's okay to ask for external help. It is okay to get on medication if it helps with your mental health, the mental health part of it. But yes, to some extent, there's a lot of, like we talked about with the journaling, writing out your thoughts, writing out all of those things that are not serving you, and then look at how you can put a positive spin on it and reframe it so that it becomes a thought that does serve you, that is going to create the feelings that is going to help you to take action. Because if you keep with that negative spiral, then you're never going to get unstuck.
Right. Well, just like you said, it was just a season. I think that looking at things from that perspective is kind of looking at them from a positive perspective, simply because, if you think of it as this is never going to end, I'm going to be like this forever, I'm always going to be behind, or, whatever it may be, like my foot's always going to hurt, or your eye was always going to be screwed up, or
this is just how I am.
Right.
I'm just not the kind of person that does X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Well, that's not true. You could be if you wanted to.
Right.
But maybe you don't want to. And that's okay too. Like, you don't have to be the extrovert that does all of the things and is always on time and you don't have to be.
Because Bonnie's never on time.
Exactly. And I'm okay with that. Most of the time.
But you were on time today.
I was. I mean, I still had to go chase my dog, and But anyway, that's another story. I got to the studio late, but now that thanks to my new computer, I did not have to wait a half hour for it to boot up once I got here.
So that's why you were on time.
I still had to screw with my webcam, but it's at least functional. So there's that. But yeah, as I'm driving out the gate, the Great Pyrenees decide to make a run for it. So I had to chase her down the road. And yep. So that technically put me 15 minutes late.
Earlier, she says the goats are out. And I'm like, oh crap, the goats are out. And she's like, they're just running around. And I think that she means that they are out. She just meant that they were out of the shed and playing in the pen. I thought she meant they were out. And I'm going, how did they get out?
Well, I need to figure out what's going on with our electric fence because the goats keep going. Like, we have high tensile wire. And we have run extra lines because of the goats, because when we first installed it, it was just for horses. So there were like big gaps between the wires. But I don't think all the wires are electrified, but it still remains. I don't know. That's not even the point. They're going through the fence and they are touching the electrified wires to get through this fence to go to another paddock so they can eat grass. Because they have eaten everything in their paddock and we're in the middle of a hay shortage. Mm-hmm. So, I go out and the problem is it's not just that they've gotten out of their paddock through this back paddock. They've also gone through the gate. So they're in the yard and all of my girl goats are right outside the boy goat pen. Oh no. I'm like, right. So they see me, they all go running back through the gate, back through the fence so that they are all in their paddock like nothing ever happened, except for one goat who apparently decided that she was going to go another way. So I go and feed them, and she is sitting on the outside of the gate to get into their pen while everyone else is inside the gate, like looking at her like, how the heck did you get out? I'm like, you were all out 2 minutes ago, so I don't know why you're jealous.
That sounds fun.
My animals are a whole other layer of setback. Like, we could talk about the fact that I spent hundreds of dollars on fruit trees only for my goats to eat them all.
They ate your apple trees?
No, they have not eaten the apple trees yet. The apple trees are still alive. The apple trees are the only thing still. I take that back. I have some katuk and some ginger that is hanging on. Everything else is done. I have to start over.
I had a lavender and I just cut it back a little bit. And it's starting to kind of green up underneath, like it's got new growth. Mm-hmm. They ate it.
Oh.
They ate it. I don't know if it's gonna live. I've got new lavender growing that I started from seed.
That's
which
good.
I'm proud of myself because I've never successfully started it from seed.
I will try lavender again this fall. I haven't done lavender in a while. It's just, it doesn't do well in the summer here because it's so prone to fungal issues and we get too much rain. So that's why
now.
I'm hoping if I start it in the fall and then it has all winter to get established, maybe it'll be able to survive a summer. If I do, like,
I learned the trick.
There's certain ones that are better for Florida than others.
That if I cold stratify it, it might actually germinate. So
I think we talked about that once before. Because then I was wondering if rosemary would do the same thing.
My rosemary's sitting out there doing nothing, so I don't know. I cut it back too, but it's not. My lemon balm's back. My lavender was back. I've got chamomile all over the place. That's all over the place.
Well, between your lavender and your chamomile, that's a nice relaxing tea to help with your setbacks.
Yeah, there you go. You drink some tea for your setbacks. If your goats don't eat it all.
If your goats don't eat it all. All right, so let's get on. We're going to run out of time if we don't keep going. All right. Frame it as a challenge and not a problem. Well, yeah. So, I can honestly say I have done this most of my life, not necessarily with challenges, with setbacks. But as a horse person, I like mares. And a lot of people do not like mares because of their attitudes. And personally, I have a deep connection with mares because I can relate to them on a foundational level. But anyway, so I've always seen challenging animals as like I want to tackle that, which this could also kind of like define most of my dating life. But when it comes to like personal problems, I guess it depends on the problem. Because sometimes things can feel like the challenge is too big and I can't do this all by myself. And I realize a central theme of this podcast is we're not supposed to do it all by ourselves. But me being me, who loves to internalize everything, I don't see any of the other people that could possibly help. I only see me. Have I mentioned I suck at delegating?
You should stop internalizing everything. That should probably be your number one goal.
That's what I'm working on. That's why I have the book.
Okay.
Okay.
That's still kind of like internalizing it though, because nobody's going to read the book.
No, but putting it on paper gets it out of my head. Because then I can look at it. Then I can look at it and then it makes it more concrete, because when it's in my head, then I can overthink it. But if it's just there on the paper, like I can't grow it into something it's not. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So do you have any examples of framing a setback as a challenge? Is your foot a challenge to be overcome?
Mm-hmm.
Are your children a challenge to be overcome?
Most days. I think, like my foot, for instance, is definitely a problem, but instead of looking at it as a problem, I have to look at it as, a way to overcome the adversity and find ways to work around it. So if I can frame it as a challenge, then I'm just, looking at ways that I can, force my other challenges, also known as my children, to help me out. Or, learning to delegate, of course. I have that same problem. I look at myself as the only one that can do X, Y, or Z, instead of the fact that I have 3 able-bodied children that could, do 90% of the stuff that I do. But I think that you can frame just about anything as a challenge instead of looking at it as a problem. So if you're looking at it from that, kind of more of a positive mindset, instead of it being, I'm stuck this way, I'm always going to be this way, whatever it may be that your issue is. If you look at it from a challenge standpoint, then you can find ways to overcome it. Whereas if you look at it from a problem perspective, then you can't really overcome a problem. You can solve it, but it's not really the same thing as finding
it's
ways
like it
to
doesn't
overcome
go away.
a challenge. Right?
Yeah. All right. So that kind of goes into our next one, which is focus on action. The way I like to look at this is I don't know. I guess it's kind of along the same lines as framing as a challenge, but I look at what we can do to fix it. Like, it's kind of one of those things where, all right, I don't like the way that this is going. I don't want to be stuck here forever. What can I do to change this? And really just, it doesn't even necessarily need to be like huge action, but just incremental things you can do each day to keep moving towards that.
Right. I think I put it up there as more of a, don't focus on what you can't do, but focus on what you can do.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I can't walk 10 miles a day, but I can probably, struggle through 4.
Right. Or maybe I can do 5 minutes and then I need to take a break.
Right.
But then I can get up and do 5 more minutes.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe. Until the end of the day. By the end of the day, I can't walk.
Yeah.
Like
at all. But
I'm ready
definitely
to crawl to the bathroom. It's that bad.
And that's why you should set limits and tell yourself, I probably pushed myself too hard today.
Yeah, well.
Where's the fun of that? All right. Next. Okay.
See? So I can do this.
Celebrate your successes, Yeah, but the problem with tendonitis is you push yourself too hard and you don't let it rest. It's never going to get better. All right.
But I can't not walk.
Well,
I still have to go to the bathroom.
Okay, this is. I mean, I guess you could get a bedpan, but anyway,
I have to cook dinner. I have 3 kids. They need to eat. I want to eat. I like food. That's why I homestead. I've decided this because I like food.
Honestly, that's probably a big part of my motivation too. When you go to culinary school and you learn that all of these big chefs were like, the reason they were able to create these groundbreaking recipes was because they had a like close relationship with the local farmers, so they were able to get the specific produce that they wanted for their recipe. It's like, I could grow that produce. Like, I don't even need the farmer.
I'll be my own farmer.
I'll be my own farmer. All right. Celebrate success. A lot of this too is like, this is really rooted in psychology. Or even, I mean, you really want to break it down really simple. It's like dog training. If you want to change a behavior or ingrain a behavior, you need to give a treat. So
we're not going to talk about Pavlov's dogs.
It's right there. Okay. Anyway, but you need to treat yourself. Like you need, and even if it is just to make it suck a little bit less. You know, you've had a setback. It feels overwhelming. It feels too big. But if you can make even an incremental bit of progress, then reward yourself for that. Don't focus on all of the stuff you still have to do. And again, this goes back to, there is no such thing as being behind. You know, if you set small goals for yourself and reward yourself for those small goals.
And those goals can be as simple as, you know, your kids ate dinner. I mean, you know, or you took a shower. It
Yes.
doesn't even have to like pertain to anything that's actually what society would deem productive. If it's something, you know, like, you know, you fed your kids or you took a shower, then, you know, that's still, at least in my mind, productive, and there are definitely days where if I fed the kids, then, you know, that was my success for the day.
Then you deserve a glass of wine.
There you go.
Or a bath with the bathroom locked. Like,
right, yeah. Right.
And yeah, because honestly, if we wait until only rewarding the big wins, we are going to get so demotivated that we're never going to see the big wins because we're going to give up because it's going to feel too far away.
Right. And, you know, your celebration can be something, you know, like just patting yourself on the back, or it can be a glass of wine or some chocolate or ice cream, or, you know, some kind of indulgence, whatever you want it to be. But make sure that you reward yourself in some way, shape, or form for no matter how big or small that success may have been.
Because honestly, my reward most days is just alone time.
I don't even know what that is anymore. This is my alone time.
Yeah, well, I managed to get out of the house without any children, so I'm going to run errands after this, and that's going to be my reward for surviving this week.
I did that after physical therapy. I went and bought Mother's Day gifts. So that was my alone time this week, I guess. I went and smelled candles.
Why not?
I bought some for myself, so.
Oh, there you go. I'm going to go get some more stuff to pamper my feet because my feet need it.
I don't even want to talk about your feet, and my feet really need something.
Never mind. We're not going to talk about my feet right now. Okay. Can setbacks be prevented?
Sometimes.
I mean, yeah, I think that there's certainly some things that we can avoid if we avoid procrastination, if we try to stay kind of ahead of the curve with certain things, then yes, we can avoid setbacks. But I mean, aside from not living in Florida, there's not much I could have done to prevent a fungal eye infection. Like my eye doctor was just like, this is just something that happens in Florida. He's like, I never saw this in Ohio. I've only seen it in Florida. Like, it's just.
Well, it's like my foot, you know, aside from not walking, I probably really couldn't have prevented what happened to it. I mean, when you talk about like health setbacks, I don't really think that any of them could really be prevented.
No.
I mean, living a healthy lifestyle could prevent X, Y, or Z, but not necessarily, because some people are predisposed to X, Y, or Z. So
right. I mean, it could, it could lessen your chances, but there's some people that they're gonna get it regardless.
right.
And honestly, this is why I really can't stand all those people that spread the message of, you know, do X, Y, and Z and you won't get cancer. Because especially having lost people very close to me to cancer, that's like very disrespectful to them. Saying that somehow either they brought this cancer on themselves or they deserved it. No.
Right.
Because some of them in particular were some of the healthiest people I know or
Right.
knew. One guy, he owned a GNC. He took all kinds of health supplements. He was a runner. He very, very active person. And we still lost him. For setbacks in general, I think it comes down to hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think you should look at everything that way. But, and like I said, I don't think, and I have to agree with you on the, you know, if you did this, then you could prevent that type of thing. I can't stand when people do that. I hate when I read that about heart disease specifically, because like I have heart disease, but it's not anything that I did or didn't do. I was born that way. So
right.
It's very, very frustrating to me. And they're like, oh, well, you know, you could have, just because you're genetically predisposed, you know, no, that's not it at all. You know, some people are just predisposed to it. Yes. But at the same time, some things just can't be prevented. It's just, you know, it's in your genes, and it's just the way that God made you. So,
yeah. I mean, even with my eczema, like, okay, yes, I could say that it's probably from chronic stress. And if I'd had less stress in my life, then maybe I could have prevented getting eczema. But there's no way for me to know that. And honestly, I had doctors for years telling me I needed to reduce my stress, but not actually giving me any idea of how to do that. Like, I mean, it's really easy.
It's 2022. Like, that's just life.
Well, right. I mean, but I'm
especially like the past 2 years. Well, I know, but you know, I that whole, you know, prevent stress thing. I think there are coping mechanisms for stress.
Right.
But I don't think that you can prevent it.
Honestly,
like
everyone has stress.
Exactly.
Some people can handle it better than others. And it, like, I can handle weird stress. Like, put me in a war room and there's like bombs going off and sirens, and like that's my zone.
Right.
Put me in a room with kids that are like, mom, mommy, mom, mommy, mom, 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 mommy. I lose my mind.
Yep. I definitely should have been a first responder, because all of that stuff, like my husband, he like freaks out at the like littlest thing. And I'm just like, this is what you do. I'm like in my zone, and I can deal all the stuff. And
right. Oh yeah.
He freaks out.
Like we had a rescue horse that ran herself into the fence and like literally ripped her chest open.
Ouch.
And my husband wanted me to go take care of the kids and make dinner, and he was going to hold the horse while the vet stitched her up. And he turned green, and I'm like, you go inside, you go make dinner. I will hold the horse. I have been in a live agent chemical defense facility with VX and sarin, like live agents, and detecting them and deconning them. And like, I thought that was the most fun thing I'd ever done in my entire life. I mean, you know, I wasn't laying on the floor twitching, so everything was fine. But yeah, like, just, I don't know, just the day-to-day stuff and the not getting that opportunity to recharge, and not getting that alone time, and not getting that me time that so many moms are so starved for. Like, that is what really peaks my stress level. And that's the, like, everyone talks about, they don't know what to do for self-care, or self-care feels so unattainable. it doesn't have to be anything super complicated.
Right.
For me, that self-care literally is like locking myself in the bathroom, locking myself in my bedroom, getting out of the house by myself and going to a coffee shop. Like that's all I need. Just
Right.
sitting down with a good book. But
I like to do the books, or I'll just like sit and zone out and watch Law and Order.
There's that.
Those are my
I know.
alone
Like my only
thing.
problem with because yeah, I'll sit there and scroll TikTok for hours, but it doesn't really it doesn't recharge me like reading does.
Right.
So anyway, all right. So I guess we're gonna close with be open-minded. Because obviously your kids are about ready to explode. I think it goes back to giving ourselves grace. And like, even though
but I had a reason for it.
You had a reason?
I
have
did.
Reasons now? We do things like for a reason?
Yes. Oh, I know, because I read on a thing and it said that being open-minded, so narrow-minded people usually experience more setbacks than open-minded people, because you're looking at it from this narrow-minded perspective of everything's a problem versus being open-minded and seeing everything as a challenge. And you're less likely to even view it as a setback, even if it is technically a setback. That was my entire point with the open-minded.
Okay. And I think kind of a little bit different spin on that is it's a lot like fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that fixed narrow mindset, you see things as this is the way things are. This is the way things are always going to be.
Right.
And if you see it with an open growth mindset, then you see that anything can be overcome and everything is just temporary. And if we are stuck here because we don't have the skills that we need to get to that next point, all we need to do is we need to learn those skills.
Right.
Or we need to find that person, that mentor that's going to help get us past that. We're never stuck. I know it can feel that way. But honestly, if we just sit and we wait for things to get better or wait for things to happen, nothing's ever going to change.
But at the same time, like I feel like when you feel like you're stuck and you're like spiraling, like going back up to, where you're venting or you're writing it all out in your journal, or, you're externalizing that in some way, whether it just be writing it down or venting to a friend or whatever it may be, I think helps you kind of get out of that. I feel stuck in, that fixed mindset, or at least it does me, because like if I text you and complain about it, like 20 minutes later, whether you said anything to me or not, usually I'm like, what?
But you put it out there. Yeah.
Right.
I think it can go either way, because I think that if we stay stuck in those negative thoughts, then they can breed more negative thoughts as well.
Right.
So yes, put it out there, but you've got to do that extra work to reframe it and think like really think about, okay, yes, I know that's what I'm feeling right now, but is that the reality? And is there a different way to look at this? Do I need to see it from somebody else's point of view? Or, maybe I just need to kind of step away from it a bit and come back to it and look at it from fresh eyes kind of thing.
And never view anything as permanent, because it's not.
No. Yeah.
Like everything's going to change. It's all a season, and it might be months from now, but it's not, your current reality is not always going to be your current reality. It's always going to change, at least on some level.
And yes, some seasons can be a lot harder to get past than others. Some seasons take a lot longer to get through. But really anything can be overcome. Anything can be changed. Sometimes it's just a matter of just doing those tiny little things every single day until you start to see results. All right. I think that is going to do it for today. I think I enjoyed this talk. I think this was really good today. So I have not given a shout out to our Patreon recently. So if you would like to buy us a cup of coffee, show us some support, you can go and check us out on Patreon. Otherwise, we've got our Facebook groups. You can find them linked to our Facebook pages, The Rustic Elk and The Not So Modern Housewife. And I think that is going to do it for today. Just remember, don't let the setbacks keep you stuck. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grounded in Simplicity podcast. If we were able to help you in any way, please share this episode with a friend and also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also join us over on Patreon at Grounded in Simplicity and help to support this podcast, as well as become a patron and get a behind the scenes look at the creation of our podcast and even have some input on future episodes.